Hi, I appreciate the chance we have to get together. Now, I don't know if there's something we have that will help you, but I'll go through the areas we work in, areas such as increasing cash flow, decreasing debt, and reducing taxes. We also specialize in life insurance and annuities and how they can possibly shave years off your potential retirement date. After that, I'll gather some information and we'll get back together at another point and go through some specifics. But right now, sit back and relax. There's nothing to buy today. Federal Financial Group is a national company representing several insurance companies and other financial institutions with billions of dollars in assets, some of which have been around for over 100 years. So what we do is we teach people about money, how it works, and how to make it work better for you. Specifically, our goal is one thing: to help people become financially independent. What that means is the interest you're earning on the money you've got put away replaces what you would normally earn from a business or salary. At that point, you don't have to work anymore. You may choose to, but you don't have to. That's financial independence. Would you like to know how to get there sooner? Well, that's why I'm here. What I want to do is touch on some of the issues and challenges that face us today, and then talk about the solutions. First off, look at the last 10 years. Incomes have risen, yes, but living expenses keep going up and up. For many Americans, there's no real way that income is kept up with housing or a lot of things. So what happens is people tend to get into debt. Lack of security steps in, poor saving habits ensue, and that creates some real problems. Now at this point, out of 100 people turning 65, you know that only 4 are financially secure with incomes of $35,000 or more? Only 4. The other 96 aren't. Now what's their situation? Well, number 1, many rely on family members. Number 2, some will rely on charity. And number 3, this is perhaps the majority of them, they're still working. For example, look at all the seniors working at Walmart. And here's the solution. What we do is work in the key areas involving 7 steps to help build your financial future. We weave these steps together to help people increase cash flow, get out of debt, reduce taxes, and retire as soon as possible if desired. The goal is to obtain financial independence much quicker. So what I'm going to do is rip through these real quick. Stop me if you have any questions, but keep in mind the specific areas that you have the biggest needs or the biggest priority, and we can develop a strategy later. Number 1 is inspect what you expect. So we're asking you to take a look at your statements every month, make sure that we're on track and you're on track. You have to keep looking at these things to make sure they're going your way. Number 2 is increasing the cash flow. Do you get a check back from the government every year for tax time? Okay, we'll take a look at that and see if we can't alter some of your deductions, and maybe we can find you some cash that way that you can be using every month. 3 is eliminating debt. We all want to do that, but right now we've got some great software programs that will help you to eliminate your debt and sometimes even cut your payoff time in half. 4 is developing an emergency fund. What we want you to do is have some money put away so if these emergencies arise, you've got ready cash in a separate account so you're not using credit cards. 5 is protect what you have. Do you have life insurance? Okay, that's great. Number 6. 6 is the big one, and if you listen to me, it could change the quality of your life. This is the one everyone likes. Step 6 is about building long-term income or long-term savings. Now there's 2 elements at play here. 2 financial battles you have to win if you're going to win the money game, because if you don't incorporate these 2, the chances of becoming financially independent probably won't happen. And if it does, it's way, way out there. So here are the 2 battles we have to win. Number 1 is the inflation battle, and you'll see why in a minute. Number 2 is the tax battle. Remember, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Taxes can hurt you if you're not careful. Okay, let's talk about inflation. Have you ever heard about the rule of 72? Well, it's pretty interesting. Let me explain it to you. Whatever interest rate you're saving at, say 4%, divide that into 72, and that will tell you how many years it will take for your money to double. So it's real simple. 4 into 72 is 18, so every 18 years your money will double. Okay, here's an example. Let's say you have $100 in an account earning 4%. If you leave it and it grows at 4% in 18 years, it'll double to $200. Okay, what happens in another 18 years at 4%? Right, it doubles to $400. Okay, here's the problem. In 36 years, will $400 buy what $100 buys now? Probably not. Remember, inflation rate's at about 3%. So let me go over this again. You've got $100 at 4% for 18 years, and that's going to be $200. In another 18 years, that's $400. Now that's inflation. John, if people are saving, where are they putting their money? Banks, credit unions, fixed accounts like a CD? And you know they're not getting 4% on those right now. So you can see what's happening. Money is growing, but inflation keeps growing much quicker. They're losing their purchasing power. They may never retire, and that's a big problem. The solution is to help them obtain potentially bigger interest rate. Say a person could get 6 to 12% interest. Let's look at an example. Let's assume you're 29 years old and you have $10,000 at 4%. 4 into 72 is 18. Okay, so that $10,000 grows to $36,000. Okay, now you're 65 years old, the kids are gone, the house is paid off, and you want to retire. You have $40,000 to your name. Now how long is that going to last? A year? Maybe a little bit longer if you're frugal? Then you're working at Walmart. But here's the problem. You've run out of time. Nobody wants to work past the age of 65. The only thing that could have changed is the interest rate. And here's the million-dollar question. If you could have a 6 to 12% instead of 4% interest rate, would you now have greater financial independence? The answer is yes. Let's look at this. At 6%, your money doubles every 12 years. At 8%, your money doubles every 9 years. And look at that, at 12%, your money doubles every 6 years. So in 36 years, you could have $640,000. Isn't that amazing? The only thing that changes is the interest rate. Not more money, not more time. The difference is the interest rate. But it cost this guy $600,000. Now, John, isn't that a pretty important principle for you to learn? This could change the quality of your life. And you know what? The key is saving a little bit on a monthly basis at a decent interest rate. If you will save for you at a decent interest rate, there may be a time when you will not be out earning your money, but your money will be out earning you. And that's pretty awesome, huh? So here's the million-dollar question. Where can I get a decent rate of return, but yet have a protection of principal where you're actually guaranteed not to lose money? Actually, there are 3 different strategies. I'm going to give you a synopsis on each one, and you tell me which one makes the most sense for you, so I'll know what's suitable for you when we get back together. I'm going to draw these out for you, okay? Number 1 is the fixed rate approach. Yes, it'll give you guaranteed fixed rate, but it's a low rate. 2 to 3%, maybe less, which could be risky because you've got to remember inflation. Okay, the second approach is on the opposite end of the spectrum, and that's the stock market or mutual funds. Okay, you know, you have a potential for a higher rate of return, but with a greater risk of losing your money. And a lot of people have because it's pretty dicey out there. The third way is the index strategy, where all the principal you save is protected, all the interest you earn is protected, so you don't lose money. Okay, so all interest is linked to the S&P 500 stock index, which for the past 25 years has averaged almost 10% a year. Of these 3, which makes the most sense to you? The index strategy. You know, that's a very popular strategy. Let's talk a minute about it. You've heard of the S&P 500 stock index, right? Okay. The S&P 500 stock index is the 500 most widely held companies in the U.S., representing over 100 industry groups such as technology, healthcare, and utilities. In fact, the S&P 500 represents almost 70% of the total domestic equity market capitalization. That's about 70% of the American economy. But get this, the S&P has averaged almost 10% a year for the past 25 years. If you had invested in the S&P 500 25 years ago and averaged almost 10% a year, you'd be happy, right? Okay. Now, when we get back together, if you've determined that the index strategy is suitable for you, I'll then explain the specific costs, floors, caps, and other terms and conditions. But for now, let me give you an overview of the index strategy and how the interest crediting works. all interest is linked to the S&P 500 up to a cap, for example, 12%, but without any of the downside risk associated with putting money directly into the stock market. So you see, your money's protected from any of the market loss. At the same time, you participate in the growth of the S&P 500 up to a cap. For example, 10% with the protection from any downside market risk. That's pretty important, don't you think? Here, let me give you an example on this. Let's say you contribute $10,000 in the index strategy, and let's say the S&P 500 did 10% that year. So now you've got $11,000. The second year, it grew another 10%, so now you have $12,100. Okay, in the third year, the S&P loses 20%. Now, is that possible? Well, of course it is. It's happened. But now, instead of your account value dropping to $9,600 in year 3, it remains at $12,100. So you see why the index approach is becoming one of the most popular. One of the best ways to win the rate of return inflation battle is to be able to get potentially higher growth, yet protect your principal from any downside market loss. But John, you can't just win the rate of return battle and forget about taxes. In fact, I'm going to show you an example that will shock you in how important it is to employ both the rate of return and the tax battle. Let's say 30 years ago, there was a guy who was 30 years of age, and he wanted to have $1 million when he was 60. Now, he didn't understand any of this, so he just goes into the bank and says, hey, Mr. Banker, what would I need to save per month for 30 years so I can have $1 million? Back then, CDs were about 5%, now they're about 2 to 3, but let's say for argument they were 5% back then. Well, the banker figured it all out, and he came out and said, what you need to do is put away exactly $1,639.29 a month for 30 years, and you'll have your $1 million. Well, he was totally disgusted. He left the bank, never saved a dime. Now he's a greeter at Walmart. Now, what if we could have taught him to win these two battles, the rate of return battle and the tax battle? Look at how that number drops. It's almost unbelievable. Let's win one battle at a time. The rate of return, let's say you've averaged 10% instead of 5%. Okay, now it takes that number clear down to $900 a month. And I'm just using round numbers, and I can't guarantee the performance of the market. But John, how many people can save $900 a month? Probably not that many. However, that's $700 less than this guy. That's significant, right? Now, what if we help him put his money where it can't be taxed while it grows? So with tax deferral, what does he need to put away? Look at that, $438. Now, John, do you know some people that can put away $438 a month? Yeah, a lot of people. Maybe even you could do that. See, to a lot of people, that's not a big deal. See, it's not so much putting away a ton, it's putting away a little bit. It's putting away what you can at a decent interest rate, reducing taxes, and avoiding loss of principal. In fact, in step 6, when we're done, a person knows how and when they will potentially be totally financially independent. And if we do it right, we can literally shave years off that retirement date. John, let me ask you this. If you were financially independent right now and had enough in that nest egg so that every month you had enough that you didn't have to work anymore, what would you and your wife be doing? What are your goals and what are your dreams? What would you guys be doing right now? Well, that's great. Now think about it. If you were financially independent, you have options. And that's the point. You can do whatever you want, how you want. In fact, it was interesting. The other day we went through the implementation phase with our client. That's the second phase of our meeting. And the wife was so excited, she gets up and says, you know what? I could go door to door asking my neighbors when they were going to be financially independent. You know, nobody would know, but I do. You know what? At that time, she and her husband became one because she knew what their dreams were and when they're going to happen. So that's exciting. Okay, so here are the 7 steps. Kind of neat, aren't they? Now let me ask you a very important question. Of these 7 steps, if you had to narrow it down to 2 that are the biggest priority in your life, between increasing cash flow, eliminating debt, developing an emergency fund, life insurance protection, long-term financial independence, tax planning, which is very critical, and estate planning, if you could pick only 2, which 2 would they be? Those are great choices. Now let me tell you what we do. We do what's called a financial needs analysis, so we can make sure the products we offer are suitable for you. Where in a second I'll ask you a few questions to help determine what your needs are and what your goals are. Then I'll take it back to the office where we have a very sophisticated software program where we'll input your information and it will help us develop a plan of attack specific around your needs and help you become one thing, financially independent the soonest. So let me explain how we really get paid so you'll know. The companies that you choose to link up with and help you with your specific goals pay us a referral fee or commission. So you won't be billed for our services rendered. In fact, it's a win-win scenario for both of us. However, the information I bring back will only be as accurate as the information we put in. So work with me here because we're talking about your financial future. And if we do this right, we can potentially shave years off your retirement date. Now the first 3 or 4 questions are yes or no answers. I can't have a maybe on this. It'll help me determine what your midterm goals are and where we're headed. Okay, in the next 2 or 3 years, do you plan on making a major purchase? Man, John, this is going to be awesome. When we get back together in a day or two, John, you've got $500 we can work with. Man, when we get back together, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of how and when you can be totally financially independent. All right, it's going to be awesome. John, this is going to change your life and you're going to owe me big. Now, it's important that we build upon what we've talked about today. So we need to set up a time to meet tonight if we can, or worst case within the next 28 to 48 hours. But if we have to go clear into next week, I'll have to recalculate everything we just covered. So we need to get together as soon as we can because we're talking about your life here. So with that in mind, what's your schedule like? I have 7 p.m. tonight or 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Hey, before I leave, I need to ask you a couple questions. Number one, if when I come back, I can show you a plan that meets your needs in every way, that you're totally comfortable with, is there any reason we can't do business? Does anybody else need to be involved? Okay. Assuming you like what I show you, how soon can we start? After we do business, is there any reason you wouldn't feel comfortable providing me with the names of 3 or 4 people that you feel may benefit from our service as well? Thank you. Okay. Hey, it looks like you may be in the perfect situation for some tax advantages. In fact, I'll run your numbers by our tax expert and see if I can get them to come with me next time we meet to cover that end of things with you. I can't promise you that I can get them, but I will bring them if I can. See you soon.